Iraq and Afghanistan veterans who practice Sky, they have experienced significant reductions in their PTSD syndromes. Not only right after taking the program, but the effects have stayed for up to a year after they have experienced Sky breathing. So it is such a beautiful gift to introduce our children, our young children to it, to be able to rely on their own inner voice. It is a life that is only here to say, I am here for you. What can I do? How can I be in service? And that sort of, life that he's leading has inspired hundreds of thousands of millions of people all around the world.
Welcome, Preeti.
Hi, Jagir. So good to see you.
Nice. Thank you so much for doing this. Welcome to the stream with Breathefy. I'm really, really happy that you're here. Nice. So this is going to be a very casual conversation, right? So, yeah, I just wanted to start with maybe just give us a little bit about yourself. What do you do, and what's been up.
Yeah, so again, Preeti Bhat. I live in the Atlanta area. I live here with my husband, my son, and been in Atlanta for actually ever since I moved into United States. Atlanta has been by far my home here. Went to Georgia Tech, did my master's, then moved out for a little bit, maybe a 3-4 year span, moved to Texas. I was working for Dell Computers back then there. And then something pulled me back to Atlanta. And for the past 17 years, I've been back in Atlanta. And for my day job, what do? I do program management, implementing workforce management systems. I work for a company called the Ultimate Chronos Group. And my specialization is in the retail, hospitality, and food services vertical. And, I usually like to say that a day job can provide you intellectual stimulation, make you, grounded so that you're not all over the place, and also help pay your bills. But at the end of the day, you really need something more to bring fulfillment and joy and purpose to your life. And that's where my work with the Art of Living Foundation begins. And Jagir, you're aware, we teach breath work and meditation programs. And I've been doing that for a long time now.
Amazing. So, as part of Art of Living, there's something very special, which is meditation, right? So I'm sure you meditate yourself as well, right? So tell us a little bit about that, right? So how did you start meditating, and how did that journey go?
Yeah, it's something that I do reflect on time and again. How did such a left brain person like me, get into this, let alone get into this, but also I'm still here going strong 25 years later.
Wow.
Yeah, so I happened to stumble across the Art of Living program. Back then, it used to be called the Art of Living Basic Course. And that's where the breath work, Sudarshan Kriya, and pranayams, and all that was taught. I was a young student back then, and I had many important things planned to spend meditation and breath work. And a friend of mine happened to take this program, and he thought it was going to be life transforming for me to go through it. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is nuts. I don't need any of this in my life. I know how to breathe. I'm living a life that is just perfect for me right now. I'm not looking for any of this stuff. And I gave every possible excuse for a good span of, I think, if I remember right, it was about 6 months, and nothing was working. Every day I would bump into this person in the college, and again this story when you're going to come. And is that finally, this is a well-wisher. What do I have to lose? Maybe a little bit of time and a few hundred rupees. Why not just check the box, get it done with? I won't tell anybody about it. I won't do anything with it. I went with that kind of a mindset. And, I still remember moments from that program. There were some moments where I was like, yeah, whatever, maybe this is all good to hear, to read in books, to hear in videos, hear preachers speak about it. But this this is not possible in real life. It's too idealistic. So that was part of the program. And then the other parts, it teaches breath work and, beautiful technique called the Sudarshan Kriya. And when I went through it, there wasn't much that I could, apply logic towards, because the experience of the blankness, the experience of the and quietness and peace was irrefutable. And I said, oh, okay, at least this is something I will take back with me. Let me see how much I practice. I'm not going to promise anything outstanding coming out of this, but I will take it and see where it goes. And I did keep up with the practice. I would do it. I wouldn't say I would do it every day, but every once in a while, when I felt very strong from inside. That was also a time I was going through a lot of emotional ups and downs. I was also trying to fit into the group, perhaps even going a little bit further away from who I really was and wanted to be. All those ups and downs and challenges were going on, but I never really read. But when I started doing this breathwork that took me inside, it started to bring out a strength inside of me and showed me that, hey, you are in the emotional turmoil, but there's also something that you have with you that can help you. So that's how it started, very, very slowly. For a skeptic like me and a left-brain person like me, it was also a matter of my ego saying, really, do you really trust in this? Is this really working for you? And then slowly but surely, I saw how it started to work for me in my life.
Wow, that's amazing. It's so fascinating when, especially what I've seen is like, when you're completely not into it, right? Like as you said, this was something that you hadn't imagined yourself ever doing it. And then it can really open up so much, right? So you're also an instructor with Art of Living, and you teach these practices now that you had learned so many years ago. How did that happen? Like, how did you decide to become an instructor? When what really entails that? Like, how is it? How does it feel to be an instructor?
Yeah, so one of the turning points for my, I should say, strengthening of my faith in the practices, in the technique, in the foundation itself was my meeting with the founder, Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar. I was very fortunate. Now in hindsight, I cannot even imagine how fortunate I was that I had an opportunity to meet with him in a very intimate setting. In Mumbai, back then it was maybe 100 people or at most 150 people. Right after I finished my program, just the next month, within a month that I finished the program. And when I spent those few minutes around him, one, the lightness of his presence, the simplicity of his presence. And also there were so many instances where I was able to see how he was walking the talk, philosophy that was talked about in the program, that I thought, oh, this cannot become an everyday thing. It is not possible. It's just in books somewhere. I saw that this person is living it. And that energy of joy, positivity that I experienced around him was what made me somewhere inside feel like, oh, this is real, this is genuine. This is something that I truly have been longing for. Wow. I just wasn't recognizing it. I was too stuck in my head to even recognize it. And that's where, little by little, I started to loosen. And I kept up with the practices for the most part. But then the other shift was when I moved to the United States. Just a couple of years after I'd taken the program, I moved to the United States and I was a student at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech was not easy, right? Other than the school and the academics and the curriculum, there were also so many other factors to deal with. Change of social settings, financial responsibilities, to be able to fit into an absolutely new culture, away from friends, away from family. That was not easy. And I do remember a point in time where I was almost on the verge of breaking down.
Oh, no.
And yeah, I was in tears. I actually was in one of the Art of Living gatherings, and I was just in so much despair. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I recognized this is what is going to keep me going at people or situations around me to make me feel good, to make me feel strong. That is not going to happen. So then, how long am I going to be in this kind of a desperate situation? I have to lean on the strength inside of me. And the only way to do that was to turn inwards these breathwork techniques, which actually and practically released stresses, strains, tensions, and pressures from the system. And then the end result of it was that you felt lighter, you felt more joyful, you felt more productive, and then you were able to. I was able to handle that tough time with much more grace and skill, and that's what again solidified my faith in the practices, in the teachings. And that was the point where somehow gradually I had the inclination to go become a teacher. So I took the teacher training program back in 2003. And I said, if it has helped someone like me, people's situations are not that different. There are so many students, there are so many people to move jobs and move countries and move social and economic settings, move across them. So it's a common story. So if it has helped me, it's going to help so many. So why not take the initiative to help more and more people? And becoming a teacher was one way to be able to do it. So that's how my journey really took off. And now I don't miss any opportunity to speak to anyone that's around me, anyone that comes in touch with me in any conversation. My association with Art of Living and the work we do with breath work and meditation definitely comes up.
Right, absolutely. And being an instructor, I'm sure you come up with so many situations and places where people really need this, right? So how what I'm really interested to learn is, right now we live in a very chaotic world in a way. There's a lot of good things that's happening, but there's also a lot of things that make people very scared and anxious. So how much do you think, over the years that you've taught, like what have you seen has changed in people's mental health and mental well-being, and how much do you think these practices are being more and more needed? If you could speak to that.
Yeah, I think 20, 30, 40, 42 years ago when we started the program, breathing meditation perhaps was a luxury. Because I feel lives were much simpler back then, at least compared to now. But today, to your point, lives have become, in a sense, they've become very convenient and comfortable. Right? Technology has made things. I can talk to you. You are sitting several miles away from me, and we're still able to have this conversation tomorrow when this gets published. Tens of thousands of people can view us and hear us. So that, in that sense, it has become so much more sophisticated. But when it comes to the level of the mind and all these things that the mind has to deal with, that honestly it's not used to,
Right.
right? That's where the need has become so much. There's no longer a luxury but a necessity. And I think that is what has changed. Before, we would see people that come, they have some health problems and issues, and they've come to experience some benefits from the technique. But now everyone wants to incorporate breath work, meditation as a part of their daily routine. It's become like brushing your teeth, taking care of your dental hygiene, taking care of your physical hygiene, taking care of your mental hygiene has become a very integral part of everyone's life, and rightfully so.
Right. Absolutely. And the benefits of meditation, I feel like there's more and more awareness of it, right? There's more people that have just heard about it. There's more people who believe in it, right? And as somebody that I also practice meditation, but I want to really hear from you, like some of the things that you are seeing, the deep and core benefits of meditation, and especially the practices that are taught with art of living, because they are very unique as well, right? So just why for people who are listening, to give them context, why meditate, and what are some really.
Yeah, I think there's so many benefits of meditation, right? Starting from improved focus. If the mind is scattered all over the place, your productivity is going to be so much lower. In the mind, you're thinking you're doing a lot of things, but really it is not manifesting in action. So,
Right.
improved focus, which translates into more productivity. And then intuition. See, as
Mm,
children, we were very intuitive.
right.
Like anything that we did, we knew it came from a very quiet, peaceful, settled inner state. So there was no regret. There was no, oh, why did I say this? Why did I do this? But in our case, so much of that happens on a day to day basis. That is because a lot of the impressions, a lot of the stresses are clogging that intuitive ability that we have inside of us. And when we are able to condition our nervous system with a few minutes of settling down every single day, then we're able to get back in touch with that intuitive source that is inside of us. And that translates into better decision making. That
Mhm.
translates into better moods, more joy in life. Right?
Right.
And I think the one other thing also is, see, with advancement of technology and advancement of everything in the material world, is so much that can pull you in outside, isn't it? Beautiful color, fragrances, and technology, and so much outside. And then, to a great extent, the mind starts to get conditioned to look for joy, to look for contentment, to look for peace in all these things that look so attractive on the outside.
Right.
But the wisdom of meditation, breath, brings us to a realization that that main switch, that main control from where the peace and the joy and the intuitive ability and all of that comes is right here inside of me.
Right.
So as much as I enjoy all these things that are so attractive on the outside, I can lean on whatever's inside of me to be able to experience that peace, joy. I think that is also one of the big things that meditation, breath work brings in our life.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And from speaking from my own experience, I would say this is real, right? Like it's not something that you and I are just saying this. There's just so much evidence out there as well. And there's also a lot of scientific evidence as well, right? So, speaking specifically about the practices that are taught in the workshop that you teach, what are some things that science has really either enhanced or validated about these practices?
Yeah, there's so much of research and studies these days that come out. And, there was one study that was done in Yale University a couple of years ago with a group of about 130 students. And these students, there were a few, there was a control group, and then there were a couple of other techniques that these groups were going through. And the sky meditation that we teach in the Art of Living programs, it showed the greatest impact in 5 different areas: stress, depression, mental health, pleasant emotions, mindfulness, and also social connectedness. Yeah, so that's one of the recent studies. Then there was another study which shows reduced cortisol as a stress hormone, where it showed that about after about 6 months of practicing of sky, there's about a 40% decrease in the stress hormone. Then there are other studies that have shown decreased anxiety levels, maybe up to 22-23% decrease in anxiety levels post sky. And also studies have been done on one of the, hardest populations, are veterans also. Iraq and Afghanistan veterans who practice sky, they have experienced significant reductions in their PTSD syndromes. Not only right after taking the program, but the effects have stayed for up to a year after they have experienced sky breathing. Yeah. So
Wow.
there's a lot of research that shows, because it's a very, very It's a physiological change, right? Breathwork and meditation, yes, at the mental and emotional level, you experience all these benefits, but also physiological level, also there is so much of change that contributes to better health.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. And when I think of some of the people that I've taught to meditation, right? They've, definitely, the research part is something that has been fascinating. But yet, believe it or not, there are people who really think, meditation is something that is connected to religion, right? Or faith. And I do believe, there is an aspect to it, right? But have you kind of, in your classes encountered questions around this, where people think, it could be something that's religious, and how is it that, that it can be explained?
Yeah, it's not uncommon for someone to come with that belief, although I have seen it decrease over the years. There used to be a time when there was more common of that kind of belief, but not anymore as much. And faith is good. If I go to a doctor, I have to have faith that I'm going to the right doctor, that I'm going to listen to the treatment that he's going to recommend or she's going to recommend. And when I follow the treatment, I'm going to get benefit out of it. So faith is always good, right? You come with some level of faith. Some level of faith is actually inherent in us. We make such a big deal out of it, but we have faith that this roof is going to stay on top of our head after we wake up in the morning. So that faith is inherent in us, and that is good enough.
Right. Yeah, and it's so interesting. I feel like a lot of people get introduced to meditation. They try out an app, or they try out, a class or something like that. But what I've always been curious about is, how are the techniques and the tools that are taught in the art of living workshops, right? How are those different, right? Because there's a lot of people who believe that, they could just go to a YouTube video and do it, or they can just start an app and, follow along. So how what difference does it make to kind of learn it properly and, kind of use these kind of specific techniques?
I think that's a great question, especially with the advancement of technology. Right, everything can be done over videos, and chat messages, and group texts. So I'm sure there is a value in watching an online tutorial and practicing, but having a personal instructor, if you want to work out and you're serious about it, you really want to get what you need out of it, will you go for a personal trainer?
Right.
You
Yeah.
will, isn't it? You will go to the personal trainer, you will go there, spend time with him, ask all the questions that you have that are very specific to you. So that is one aspect of it. So having a teacher, especially on a spiritual aspect, is also the energy that is transmitted. When you talk to someone that is personalized, is very different from a generic video that is just put out somewhere and then you're following it. Yeah, that is good for talks, information exchange, all of that. It has its own value, it has its own place. But when it comes to something so subtle, so delicate, and so sensitive as dealing with our mind, breath, meditation, I would say having a personalized session has its own beauty and its own charm.
Yeah, absolutely. Practices that I feel like, when you learn something in person, it has its own charm, right? So I totally agree. What,
And
what,
also one more thing, Jagi, the way we do our programs, they're also in a group setting. So you get so much out of the group discussions. It's not just the breath work, but it's a whole package where we have people share and talk in groups, and then each one learns from each one's experience. Each one learns from the questions that others in the group ask. So even though the program may have common content, but every program, as you know, Jagi, is so unique and its own unique flavor every time we do it.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's very hard to explain it, right? It's so experiential, right? So it really one has to experience it for themselves, right? And as you said, the richness of kind of having that community, having that personal connection, is incredible. It's invaluable, right?
And to again, one of the things that also kept me going on this path is the sense of community.
Right.
I have made the best of friends in this journey. We may not even talk for years together, but when we meet, it is as if we just met yesterday and we can pick up right from there.
Right.
So,
Right.
this sense of community, which is also one of the things that people are really seeking for, sense of belongingness, social connectedness, and a sense of community which is meaningful and purposeful to who they are, is so important. And that is also one of the things that comes from doing them with a community.
Yes. Why, that's always been a curiosity of mine. Like, we meet people and, friends and family throughout our life, right? But the connections that we've made, through meditation, in the group that we've formed in these workshops or even, around it, I've always seen there's a much different flavor to it. There's a richness to it, right? And so why do you think that happens? Like what's contributing there?
That's because, human beings always seek to belong. If you see right from a child, for a child, the parents or siblings or whoever it is that the child is growing, that is their community. And then the
Right.
child seeks to interact with other children, right?
Hmm.
And then they want to make friends and they grow because our learning happens that way. They say that the child learns most when they are in the midst of other children, and that's why our social setup is also like that. So it's just inherent to us. We learn so much, and we also find a sense of comfort. I talk to you, I share my story on a day that I may not be feeling that great, and I feel a
Right.
sense of lightness,
Hmm.
isn't it? And then you share your story, and then I feel like, oh wow, I thought I was the only one going through this, but really not. And then I feel like, oh, I have a friend in you that I can
Right.
lean on. That gives me more strength, isn't it? And then when it comes to the practices itself, it's possible life takes over, and sometimes we get derailed, and sometimes it feels like, oh, I just don't feel up to it to keep up with it. And then some friend calls you and says, oh,
Right.
come, I'm going to this community gathering, and you're like, okay, if you're going, then I will come.
Of course, yeah.
Such a value in that, and we're all looking to belong. We're looking to belong to a group that thinks like us, that does gardening like us, interests us, in the spiritual.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's one other very important role that you play, right, in life, which is your mother. How has that been impacted by your experience with meditation, your experience with teaching meditation as a parent and as also somebody who's, you know, raised some children who are interested in meditation? So yeah, just a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, I think I value my own practices and my role as a meditation teacher and instructor even more so since I've had my son,
Yes.
because it creates that environment in the house where meditation, breathwork, spirituality is not something you do between the hours of 5 and 7. It's part of our lifestyle. And for my son, he was just making a picture of what I am for his class tomorrow. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things he put up top, and this is all his own creation, okay? One of the things he puts up top is, I'm a meditator. He's 9 years old.
Wow.
So they say children are like sponges. You can say all you want to, but if they don't see you living it,
Mm.
chances are that they may or may not catch on to what you're saying.
Right. Right.
So I think it is the biggest gift for a child to be raised in an environment where the parents are also practicing all those things.
Right. Absolutely.
And then it's not much of an effort to tell the children, be this way, be that way, this is good, this is not good, right, wrong, all that. That discretion, that it is already there in them. But chances are, by noticing some of our behavior, which may make them think, oh, really? Okay, maybe this is the right way to do it, right? Chances are that will not happen.
True. Absolutely. Yeah, and children are so intuitive, so in tune with their own self, in their mind. So I think having this kind of experience of meditation and the background that you have, it can only enhance that intuitiveness, right? It can only enhance how easily they learn these things.
Yeah, and Jagir, we teach young children, a program called the Intuition Program in the Art of Living. It really allows them to tap into that intuitive space inside of them without much effort. It's just like you just knock and say, oh, it's here inside of you. And so he's been practicing since the age of 5. Yeah, since the age of 5. And that is part of his routine.
Wow. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's very interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about like how that has changed, what he experiences on day-to-day basis? And I think a lot of people might be interested to learn a little bit about the intuition program as well. So please.
Yeah, the Intuition Program is offered for kids starting the ages of 5. It's a very short program. What happens in it is just blows my mind away. Yeah, it's a very short program, a couple of hours, 2 sessions, and then children are given a take-home practice by their age level. They practice it for a few minutes every day. It incorporates some breath work, a little bit of exercises, and some meditation. Yeah. So it serves the purpose of starting to incorporate all those things into their routine from that young age. And the side effect, the results of it are just mind-blowing. Some of the manifestations of it is children are blindfolded and they can read, they can draw, they can see the world blindfolded.
Wow.
A number of these programs have been done in schools where, people don't have the sense of sight, and they're able to witness colors and things and shapes and objects that they've never been able to. And in my son, I see that he can hold and he can read and write. When I asked him, like, what is his experience with this? And he's been practicing it for over 4 years now. And one of the things he said was, it allows me to make my decisions well.
Wow.
He says it allows me to pick my friends who I want to be and who I'd rather not be with. Things like that are so sharpened and heightened in these children. So it is such a beautiful gift to introduce our children, our young children, to it, to be able to rely on their own inner voice.
Yeah, and it always fascinates me. For everybody who's watching this, if you're more interested to learn more about intuition process, just Google intuition process and just see some of the videos that are out there. It's fascinating what children can do, with these capacities, which are inbuilt in them, which are natural to them. Because nothing is added. It's just uncovering an ability that's already there. Right? You already mentioned something about Sri Ravi Shankar, right? Who is the founder of Art of Living and a global humanitarian mentor to thousands of people. Can you tell us a little bit more about him and just, why was this movement started by him? And just any experiences that you may have also.
How much time do I have for this, Jagir?
I know.
I don't know how to sum up a personality like him. He's a global humanitarian, a peace ambassador, a spiritual leader, and he brings a big vision that is not just a vision, but every moment of his life is dedicated to making that vision a reality. And it's the vision of creating a stress-free, a violence-free, and a happy world.
Right.
And he travels all around the world. Right now, he's in the United States, and every other day, he's in a different part of the country. I remember a few years ago, he had traveled to 174 cities.
Wow.
In a year. And this is across continent. One day, he's in Asia, and the next day he's in South America, and then he's in Europe. So it's a life that is fully and fully dedicated to serving humanity. It is a life that is only here to say, I am here for you. What can I do? How can I be in service? And that sort of, life that he's leading has inspired hundreds of thousands of millions of people all around the world. So Art of Living is a service organization. It is a completely volunteer-based organization. To everyone that you see here, like you, me, and all our teachers and facilitators all around the world are volunteering their time, inspired by his work, his vision. Someone that is showing us that it is possible to make this a reality.
Right.
And I think today's world, we need leaders like this. We need more and more leaders. And yeah, that's a little bit about him.
Yeah, I was asking, why, kind of this movement was started, right? And also, how has it spanned over the years?
Yeah, so he had been teaching meditation since his early age. At the age of 4, he recited the Bhagavad Gita, and he really surprised his teachers, his parents. So, everyone around him knew that he had some special gifts. That was pretty evident from his childhood itself. He got a degree in modern sciences and physics, and then he started teaching meditation. He was already traveling the world, but there was something more that he knew was coming up for him. So that's when he went into a period of silence. Silence is so cleansing, and silence brings out such amazing gifts that is inside of us. And for him, he went into a period of 10 days silence. The Sudarshan Kriya, the sky breathing, that is now a cornerstone of all our programs. That is what came up. And as he started teaching these programs, it started from India, some rural, remote parts of India. People started healing. And, that's how the word started spreading. But there were only so many people that were able to avail of such an amazing thing that had come up. And that's when he said, there are people all over the world that are waiting for this. So I'm going to take on the initiative to get out there and go to all these people and give this beautiful gift. And that's how more and more teachers started to come along. And that's how the foundation grew. We are in over 180 countries now. One of the prominent magazines covered us a few years ago, and it said it's the fastest growing spiritual organization on the planet.
Wow.
In 42 years, so much work is done. You can go to our websites. You can go to Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar's website and his biography. And you can see, even websites are not enough. Share everything that is happening every day. The statistics are changing every day. The number of projects that are getting implemented, we are adding on and adding on. So it's hard even for our IT teams to keep up with keeping all our websites and social media sites up to date. So all our viewers, don't you think they should definitely have an opportunity to meet him and see what he truly is about?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I was just thinking, one of the great opportunities that anybody can come experience him. And also, what Art of Living has been doing is something that's coming up this fall, right? Which is we're organizing a big festival, the World Culture Festival. And, I would really like from you to hear, as someone who's been working on this, in organizing this big festival and this huge event that's coming up, what is it, and why is it being organized now and in the US, right? So, if you can tell us about that.
I can speak from my perspective of things. But I think The United States is really like a role model of a country for the rest of the world, isn't it? We are having a lot of socio-economic, political challenges within our country. And there are also similar challenges that are going on in different parts of the world as well for the past few years, especially, isn't it? So, if there is a voice that can go from this country, which glorifies the value of peace, which glorifies the fact that we can celebrate our differences, right? The
Right.
food that you eat in your household, Jagir, is probably very different from what I eat. But I cannot fight and say, oh, only my food is the real food and is the right
Right.
way of making food, isn't it? If I
Right.
start to come to your place and recognize, oh my God, this is such delicious food, this is an amazing way of making it, perhaps I can incorporate some of it as my cooking, or I can come to your place every time I want to enjoy the food, and you can do so similarly, right?
Right.
So when we can celebrate so much diversity in food, in music, and technology from so many different parts of the world, right?
Hmm.
We can definitely come together as one world family.
Hmm.
And that is a vision of this big event that is happening in Washington, D.C. on the National Mall from September 29th through October 1st. It's bringing people from over 150, 180 countries onto one platform.
Right.
There's, of course, going to be some performances and entertainment and music and art showcasing our diversity. There will be leaders on one stage from all these different countries, from different backgrounds. And that will also be a place for us to, shine some light on issues that the world needs to, come to, I say, it's high time that we come together and do something about it. Mental wellness is one of
Mhm.
it. Our environment is another. So many such issues that are very important and relevant to our world today. And that message will go out through this festival, which is going to happen in this scale. So that's what it is about. And that's why I think very relevant to our time today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that is a rising challenge, and it has been a challenge, is polarization all across the US and also around the world, right? We're having a hard time coming together. And it's, especially, in the US, I feel like if people with different opinions, different viewpoints are going further apart and they're never talking to each other, right? So I think that's one another aspect to our the World Culture Festival, and I'm very excited about it. And I'll be putting some information in the description. So if you want to learn more and absolutely join, you can find it there. Yeah, but it's this is all so fascinating, right? One other aspect that I really wanted to talk about with you was, I feel like young people, you know are either very interested in learning about themselves and their inner world, or they're very, and I've seen both groups where either they're very interested or they're very resistant to it, right? And you're somebody who teaches this kind of practices to young people as well in colleges, right? So how is that experience different from maybe somebody who's later in their life, older? And is it something that is growing? Is it something like, are more and more college students looking for something like this? What is your view on it?
See, everyone wants to, especially the youngsters, want to follow the trend in fashion, trend in technology. And I tell you, breathwork, meditation, yoga is the current hot trend. So we definitely see that in college students. Like just this past year, Georgia Tech, which is where we conduct our programs here in the Atlanta area, has seen more of these workshops than we've ever seen before. And every one of them has been a house full. Right?
Wow.
Because the challenges are real, especially with the younger generation. And they are very smart. There is more of a sense of awareness amongst the younger generation to do something for their mental well-being than ever before, I feel like. The
Right.
times have changed. It's not anymore where someone has to tell you that you have to take care of all aspects of your health, not just your physical health, but also your mental health. And that's very, very evident in the numbers and the turnout that we see in these programs in universities and with the younger crowds. And then the older community, of course, they are very wise. So that continues.
Right, absolutely. What I also have been, and I mean, obviously, I've experienced my own journey, which is something that started, at a college campus, right? So I learned meditation and breath work on campus, and it's something that has really transformed my life. And I can really see that, I was put on a very different trajectory in life because of these practices, right? So, are there any like instances or stories that come in mind for you of people who are really young and kind of starting a new phase in life, and how these things, these sky practice, meditation, how does it really change their perspective and how they're feeling inside and outside?
Oh, yeah, numerous instances. And that is what is our motivation also to keep offering more programs on university campuses. I clearly remember this was many years ago. There was this young student. He had also moved from a different country. At Georgia Tech, he was ready to give up on many, many fronts. It was very scary. And that's when he said, I want to give it one last chance and come and repeat. He had experienced Sudarshan Kriya and Sky before, but somewhere, he hadn't kept up with the practice. So he knew that that could be a solution to what he was going through. So thank God for that. He came and repeated a program, and I cannot even start to describe the change. It gave him a lot of determination, and he stayed committed to finish his program, not give up. And the sense of confidence that we saw come up in him after that is something I can never forget. He graduated, he got a job, moved to San Diego. I haven't been in touch with him the past few years, but he was doing pretty well after that.
Wow, amazing. Yeah,
Oh yeah, these stories are very, very common.
nice. That's always been fascinating to me, right? And the other aspect is the flip of it, which is, I see a lot of people who are very interested in making a change around them, right? And they are very bothered by how they see the world, and there's so many things that really irks them. From my own experience, I can say when I've done these practices, when I'm meditating, there's just more power and more clarity to kind of take intelligent action, right? So, what would you say about somebody who's looking to, really do something about an issue that they're very close to? How can these practices help with that?
It puts you in touch, like you said, with that clarity that is inside of you, emotion that is inside of you. And a number of times we hesitate to
Mhm.
take on certain initiatives because we are unsure. We have a doubt.
Yes.
Do you see that? Yeah.
Mhm.
So, one, it allows you to overcome the doubt, and it brings you that strength. Okay, what is the worst that can happen? I may fail,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And we are also afraid a lot of times with failure because that brings up a lot of overwhelming feelings inside of us and emotions inside of us. And we're not sure how we can handle those emotions. Nobody is afraid of emotions of joy, peace. Have you ever heard of anyone being overwhelmed and not know how to handle it? But we don't know how to handle the feelings of failure, anxiety, fear, all those feelings. And there are some advanced programs that we also teach, like the silent retreat, where we go deeper into the source of these emotions.
Right.
And how can, because these emotions come up in life, No one can be, devoid of experiencing anger, of experiencing fear. It's not possible. But these practices allow us to, one, gives us tools and techniques and skills as to how to move through them to minimize the impact that they have on us.
Right.
And then, when from that space you say, okay, fine, strength to deal with it. So what?
Right.
Every failure is a stepping stone to success, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the clarity together with that strength, that inner strength, is what allows us to take risks, us to go for our dreams.
Yes, yes. Very well put, I would say, because I think there's so many people who are interested to really, understand these emotions and, that come up and that keep coming up, right? And I think you mentioned the advanced program, the silent retreat. And, from what I've experienced, right, these programs can really root out, and give us a lot of clarity in terms of why these feelings come up and help us to move past them. So, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with silence and the retreat itself, and then the effects that you may have seen from it?
Yeah. See, if you ask any great man, any wise man that has
Mhm.
come up with something that has been transformational, electricity, gravity, like, when you ask them, how did you come up with it?
Ah,
They say, oh, it just came up, isn't it? But it required that space of silence, that space of being in touch with yourself, for that to, what is there inside, to come up, to manifest and express itself.
right.
Ask a poet, you ask a writer, oh, how are you able to write so well? They say, oh, it comes up. But then everything has to be conducive for it to come up. We can't just
Mm,
force a poet to write a poem. No, they have to go find their space, maybe in nature or maybe in a quiet setting, and then it comes to them. That is
right.
what silence gives. At
Wow.
one level, at a physical level, it is very healing, it is very rejuvenating. All our life, whatever, 18, 20 hours, maybe 16, 18 hours, right? Our energies are focused outwards. What are they saying about me? How do I express myself? I'm good enough? Am I being, productive enough? Like, so much of energy is going outwards. Here in silence, you're not, there's no obligation to perform, there's no obligation to be someone or be something.
Mm,
You're just in your own quiet space. So, one, lot of that energy is conserved, that is wasted otherwise. And two, when you channel that energy and go inwards, you start to become more sensitive, more aware of what is going on with your own thoughts and feelings and emotions.
right.
So that brings a great deal of stability and a great skill in being able to deal with these emotions. Yeah. So
Mm,
it's a very beautiful program that we offer, 2-3 days of silence, 2-3 days of really giving ourselves a break from the world, so that we can rejuvenate, we can heal ourselves, and then when we go back, our perception, our observation, our expression is so much keener, so much sharper.
right. So yeah, it's so beautiful, right? And what you said, like, there are so few moments in life where we can feel so free. We are not obligated to do something or perform in a certain way. And having this opportunity is so precious, and something like that, that lets you do it in such a easy and comfortable way. I mean, it's beautiful, right? One last question I definitely have is, there's a lot of people that must be watching, and they're interested to teach this, right? Like, I know people who are more than anything else, they really want to make an impact in other people's lives, and they're interested in meditation as well, right? So what is the journey for somebody to teach these practices? How, where can they start, and what it entails? If you can speak a little bit about that.
I say, if the thought has come into you, And I want to take this to more and more people. I want to teach. Hold on to it. Do not let it go. Do not let it go, and act on it. And there's a very beautifully curated program to become an instructor for the Art of Living programs. You experience the techniques for yourself, you practice it for a little while, very short amounts. In fact, within a year to a year and a half of your taking your first Art of Living the Sky program, you can become an instructor for the program. It's just your focus and your strong desire to serve and give. That is all that is needed.
Wow.
And we can share more details of how you go about it. But it is what I can tell you. I have a full-time job, a full-time family to take care of, and I have other interests in social connections that I also like to maintain in my life. But given all that, it's still a very practical addition to your life to become a teacher and to teach and facilitate these programs. It's very, very, very doable. So if anyone has that doubt, oh, is it going to take away from my family life, is it going to take away from my do I have to, you can keep all of that, just your desire to give and to make this world a better place for our future generations. That is enough. And all the other technicalities are very, very easy to take care of.
Absolutely, absolutely. These are some questions I had. I would love to keep talking. Anything that you would like to add, or if anything that you wanted to share, I would love for you to have that opportunity. Or if not, that's fine too. We can definitely end here if you want.
Yeah. I think the timing of this session that we're doing is such that the World Culture Festival is big on all our minds. So, any of our viewers watching, I'd like to again bring up the World Culture Festival. And if they can attend it in person, they will have a glimpse of what it means to bring the whole world together, what it means that we are a one world family. Yeah. So it's not just something that is written somewhere in some ancient scriptures and texts and, good speeches and good speakers talking about. But if you come there, you will witness it. And that will be one memorable event to carry down your memory lane. So I would definitely love to invite all our viewers to come attend the World Culture Festival, Washington, D.C., on the National Mall, September 29th through October 1st.
Amazing. Yes. And as I said, there's gonna be information in the description, so go check it out. And this is a once in a lifetime event. So I really hope we can make it. But with that, thank you so much for joining us, Preeti, and thank you so much for taking this time out. It was amazing to have you here, and I hope we can, continue this conversation. And thank you so much for taking this time.
Absolutely, Jagir. And thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share something that's so near and dear to my heart with more and more people. So thank you for doing this.